This is going to be our lecture for DMA 50, sections 17 and 18. To begin with, I am going to give you some beginning information that you need to know. This is coming from the 060 section, and it's listed as sections 17 and 18. In these two sections, we're going to look at graphing parabolas. A parabola is going to be a figure that looks like this or like this. Let me do that again. A parabola is going to look like this or like this, okay? So when we look at a parabola, the one here on the left, this one is opening upward. The one on the right-hand side is opening downward. An important concept that we need to talk about regarding a parabola is an item that's called the vertex. The vertex on this parabola is at the bottom. When the vertex is at the bottom, it is called the minimum. When the vertex is at the top of a parabola, it is called the maximum. We will be asked in these sections to identify and draw as a dashed line something that's called the axis of symmetry. I'm going to do a dashed line here. This dashed line that's in pink is the axis of symmetry. Let me do the axis of symmetry on this one here also, okay? So the blue figures are parabolas, opening either upward or downward. The vertex is either the lowest point called the minimum or the top point called the maximum. And the dashed line that I drew, dividing them in half, is called the axis of symmetry. Okay? Now, something important about the axis of symmetry. You will be asked to write the axis of symmetry as an equation. The equation for the axis of symmetry is always going to be x equals, and the number that you're going to use is going to be the x value of the vertex. So the x equals is your equation, x equals, and then the number that you're going to key in is going to be the x value of the vertex. So when you have a vertex, the ordered pairs are x and y. The one that you're going to use is going to be the value that is for the x. Now, how do we go about identifying the vertex? In order for us to draw a parabola, you must first find the vertex. Now, how do we go about finding the vertex? We're going to use our calculator and we're going to go to y equals, and at y equals, we're going to type in the equation. You're then going to press the button graph, and after you do graph, You're going to start with zoom 6, which is your standard view, to view it. As you look at your parabola, you want to identify if the vertex is at the top or the bottom. We are then going to do the keystrokes second, trace, and you're going to choose either maximum or minimum. It's numbers 3 or 4. Choose either max or minimum. Hang on. Okay. Once you've chosen maximum or minimum, you are going to move the cursor to left of vertex. You're going to press enter. You're going to move it to the right of vertex. Again, you're going to press enter. It's going to give you an option that says guess. On guess, you're just going to press enter. You will then see the word minimum or maximum, and then you will be able to identify what we're doing here. So let me come to our MyLabs Plus for a moment. It says sketch the axis, the graph of the quadratic function in the axis of symmetry. State the vertex and give the equation or the axis of symmetry. Our equation is x squared plus 4. So you're going to go to your calculator. You're going to select y equals, and we're going to type in x squared plus 4. And as I said, we're going to press graph, and we want to be sure we're starting at zoom 6, which is our standard view. At the standard view, you will notice that the vertex is at the bottom. If it's at the bottom, it is called the minimum. So we're going to go second, trace, and minimum is number 3. So choose number 3. Here, where you see left bound, we are going to take this cursor, using the left arrow key, I'm going to move it to the left. Press enter. It now changes the word to right bound. I'm going to move the cursor to the right of the vertex. Now don't stop this close, swing it on around. Once it's passed, press enter. The word guess, we just press enter. My minimum here is, for x, it says 9.86e negative 8. This is considered to be scientific notation. Anytime you see an e, it means 9.86 times 10 to the negative 8. Here, when it says, let me see, you just have to bear with me, where we had 9.86 e to the negative 8, this is scientific notation, which means 9.86 times 10 to the negative 8th. So if I had this number, 986, and I started here, I'd go left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 places. The 9 counts as one of the places, so I would end up with 7 zeros, 986. So in essence, this number is, for all intents and purposes, a big old 0. So whenever you see scientific notation with e to a negative exponent, whatever that may be, we're going to use 0 for the value of that particular item. So the vertex of this would be 0, 4. So for this problem, my vertex is going to be the ordered pair 0, 4. In order to graph this, I'm going to go to MyLabs Plus. Here on my graph, I'm going to make it larger. I'm going to choose this as my parabola tool. And the first point that I'm going to graph is going to be 0, 6. Now, if you'll notice up here in this corner, as I move around, it tells me where I'm located. So once I'm on 0, 6, I'm going to select it. Now, if I were to click again on mine being a touchscreen, it's going to automatically snap into position. So I need to find my second point. If you're using your mouse, let me see if oh, here we go. I can bring my mouse in too. Yay. Okay, so I'm not clicking with the mouse, I'm just moving. Do you see how it can flip upward or downward? So when you're going to graph, you're going to start by graphing the vertex first. Then we need to choose a second point. So when I go to choose a second point, I'm going to do second table. Now I have a whole list of ordered pairs. The graph that I have here goes as high as 20 to negative 20. Here, negative 20 to 20. So I need to find a point that fits in between those. I'm going to choose 4, 20. So as I come here, I'm now going to choose, I'm going to go 4, and I'm going to go up to 20, 4, 20. I'm going to click, and that's going to snap into position my parabola. To graph the axis of symmetry, I now choose my line tool. Now notice, they asked me to make it dashed. This line is solid, this is dashed. So after I've chosen the line tool, I'm going to choose dashed. I'm going to go back to my vertex, and I'm going to keep my line straight up and down, then save. So you will now see I have a parabola, and I have my axis of symmetry. Now that's not looking, hang on, let me go back and just double check. No, that's not dashed. Let me come back to it again. It is dashed. It's not looking dashed though. Okay, let me check and see. Okay, hang on just a minute. Let me come back and clear, because this is going to happen to you. Let me clear out what we have. Okay, so parabola tool. My first point was, oh, I know what it was. My vertex was 0, wasn't it 0, 4? And I typed, yes, it was 0, 4, and I did a 0, 6. So let's come back and let's fix that, okay? 0, 4, and then I chose 420, which should be here. Then I do my line tool, make it dashed, go back here, choose my second point, save, and then check. There you go. Okay, so be sure you're writing down correctly what you had on, and I wrote 0, 4, but I, for some reason, graphed the other. To get a second point, what I did was to get a second point, select, and I did second, the button second, and then I chose table, which is written just above the graph button. Second table gives you ordered pairs, and you can choose from any of those ordered pairs. Okay, let's come back here. Whoop. Now it's asking me what is the vertex. So my vertex here that I have was 0 and 4. That was my ordered pair. And now it's asking me, it says the axis of symmetry is, this is where our equation is going to be x equals, and the x value of this ordered pair was a 0. So x equals 0 is what I'm going to use. That's my equation for the axis of symmetry. Okay. I'm going to skip ahead a couple of questions. Most of these are going to generally be about the same. So let's go a couple of questions over, and let's try this one. We have x minus 3 squared plus 7. So y equals, I'm going to clear, do my parenthesis, x minus 3 squared plus 7. And they want me to graph this. So I'm going to look at the graph. My parabola, the vertex is at the bottom. It's still the minimum. I'm going to use second, trace, choose number 3, minimum. It says left bound. Well, right now I don't even see the cursor anywhere, but it tells me it's at 0.16. So it's like way up here at the top of the page somewhere. So I'm going to move my arrow to the right a little bit. Oh, there, now it's on the screen. Once it's left bound, I press enter. The wording changes to right bound, so I'm going to move it to the right past the vertex. Press enter. On guess, I'm going to press enter again. So this one, my minimum, my vertex is the point. This we would round to the whole number 3, 7. Okay, so for this particular problem, what I have is, and if I were doing my work, I'd put a V and then I'd write the ordered pair 3, 7. Okay, so I can identify my vertex. So as I'm here, I'm going to graph. So parabola tool, I'm going to go to 3 up to 7. And then to get my second point, we're going to do second table. And remember, we can't go bigger than 20. So let's do 0.16. Okay. So let me come back here. And at 0.16, that's my second point. Choose the line tool to do the axis of symmetry. I need to make it dashed. Go back to my vertex. Click a second point. Save it. Check it. Very good. And my vertex was the ordered pair 3, 7. And my equation for the axis of symmetry is x equals, and my x value for the vertex is a 3. Very good. Okay, so that's what we're doing as we're working through any of these problems that we're graphing. You only have 11 questions. It's not a huge number of these. And you have to choose either correctly maximum or minimum depending on the location of the vertex. Okay? So let me close section 17 and let me open the section 18. Okay, so assignments. Bear with me just a moment while the page loads. And let me scroll down. Here we go. Section 18. Okay, there's only 8 questions on section 18. Okay. So let me take you through the entirety of one of these. They're going to ask you a lot of different questions. They're giving us a whole equation, x squared minus 2x minus 8. So we're going to come here. We're going to go to y equals x squared minus 2x minus 8. Let me make sure I typed it correctly. X squared minus 2x minus 8. Yes. Okay, so the first thing they're going to ask me for is, what is the vertex? So if I go to graph, I can see my graph. The vertex is here at the bottom, so it's the minimum. We're going to do second, trace, and choose 3, minimum. I notice my cursor is already left bound. I'm going to press enter. I'm going to now move my cursor right bound, press enter, and on guess, press enter. So a 0.99999 is going to round to the whole number 1. And for my y value, it's -9. So my vertex here is going to be a 1, -9. So let me change colors here. This is a new problem. My vertex on this one is 1, -9. So as I am here, I'm going to give them that answer, 1, -9. And then they ask me, does it open upward or downward? Let's look back. When it looks like the letter U, Think of U and upward starting with the same letter. So this one we would say opens upward. Check. When it asks me for the x-intercepts, in order to find the x-intercepts, what I'm going to do different, we're trying to get the x-intercepts. And to get these, we're going to go to y equals, and we're going to go down to where it has y sub 2, and we're going to put the number 0 there. We're then going to go through the process where we're going to do second trace, and we're going to choose number 5 intersection is the option that we're going to select here. Okay, so come with me. I'm going to go to y equals. I'm going to go down to y2. I'm going to plug in a 0. And now when I press graph, you're going to see my blue parabola is still here, but now a red line came across the screen at the y equals 0. So it's a horizontal line. We're looking to find the 2 points here and here where we have the parabola crossing the x-axis. Those are our x-intercepts. So if we will, we're going to do second trace. We're going to choose number 5 intersect. Now for these, it's going to give us the terms first curve, second curve, guess. All we have to do is get it near where the intersection is, and I press enter 1, 2, 3 times, and when you see the word intersection, you have your ordered pair for one of the 2 points. This one's a -2, 0. So I have a -2, 0. When you type in your answer, they're going to ask you to put a comma to separate the ordered pairs. So I'm going to go ahead and set that up, but you have to put this comma between the 2. If you type 2 ordered pairs without the separation, it's going to read it as incorrect. Same process, second trace, number 5 again. Press the right arrow. We're going to move it to the other side, the other point of intersection. Okay. Doesn't have to be perfectly on it, but close to it's fine. Enter 1, 2, 3 times. You see the word intersection. My ordered pair is 4, 0. And these would be the 2 ordered pairs that we're going to name. Okay, -2, 0 and 4, 0. -2, 0. I have to put the comma and then the next ordered pair, which is 4, 0. Very good. The y-intercept. Now the y-intercept is going to be super easy, okay? For the y-intercept, back here on the calculator, we're just going to do second table. And you see all of these ordered pairs? What we're looking for is when x is 0, the number in the column y1, 0, -8 is our y-intercept. So here I'm going to have the ordered pair, whoop, hang on, 0, -8. So we just did second table, and that gives us our ordered pair. Now they want us to choose the graph. Some of these you're going to choose the graph, some of these you're going to draw the graph. Now for this one we can use process of elimination. Our particular graph opened upward, so we can already eliminate B and C. Both B and C open downward. Ours is either going to be A or D. Now, our intercept, if you recall, no, the vertex, excuse me, was 1, -9. So if I look at this first one that opens upward, if I go to 1 down to -9, is that my vertex? No, that's not my vertex. So this particular option is not going to be the correct answer. I'm going to come down to my other potential option, and I'm going to go right to 1 and then count down to -9, and voila. It is at the vertex. It is on the line. It is the vertex of this parabola. So I am going to choose item D as my answer choice. Okay? We're going to continue with this same process through these problems. Let me do this next one because this should give us a graph that opens in the other direction. So we have a -x squared plus 4x minus 6. Y equals, clear, negative x squared plus 4x minus 6. I'm going to leave the 0 because I'm going to have to still find the x-intercepts, and it does not hurt anything to still have it there. Okay, so we're going to press graph to view, and I see my parabola. The vertex is at the top. So this time the vertex is going to be identified as second trace. We're not choosing minimum, we're choosing maximum this time because it's like on the mountain peak. It is already to the left of the vertex, so I'm going to press enter. For right bound, I'm going to move it to the right past, enter, and on guess, enter. My maximum is, now this number 1.9999, I'm going to round to 2. So it's going to be 2, -2. So let's come here. My vertex is going to be 2, -2. Great job. Now this one wants me to graph it. So I'm going to choose parabola tool. I'm going to go to 2, -2, make my first point. And then I'm going to go to my table and choose another point. Let's say we choose 0, -6. So I'm going to come back here and I'm going to graph 0, -6. And for this problem, they're only asking me to graph the parabola. They're not asking me to do an axis of symmetry. So I'm going to save and then check. So for some of these, you're going to be asked all of the different questions, and then some of these you may not. Let me point one other thing out on this one. If they were to have asked me to identify the x-intercepts, does the parabola cross that line at any point? No, it doesn't. So for this particular one, there would not be any x-intercepts. So you would say there's none. And then when they ask you for the y-intercept, you just do second table, and you identify when x is 0, what the y is, so 0, 6 would have been the y-intercept. And this particular graph opens downward. One other thing to point out too is when you're looking at a graph, zoom 6 is your standard view. If we did not see what we needed, we could do zoom 0, and do you see it zooms it, so a little bit better view. We also have zoom 3 enter, and that's another way to further modify your graph if you're unable to see the peak at either the top or at the bottom for your maximum or your minimum. Okay, so let me come back to my standard view so it'll be in the right place. And here I'm going to stop. So this is section 17 and 18, and you just got to keep practicing these and you can do it. Hang in there.